Hello, welcome to another video from 3.5 Archive. Today we're going to be doing our 29th D&D 3.5 Prestige Class Review. We're going to be looking at the Streetfighter today from the Complete Adventurer Sourcebook. Streetfighters find their place among the shadowy and dangerous parts of the great cities of the world. These are tough fighters that are quick to action and even quicker to protect themselves. They have almost uncanny reflexes. And this prestige class tends to be geared toward fighters, rangers, fighter rogues, and in the case of the ranger, probably an urban ranger. The swashbuckler could be potentially a candidate for this prestige class, along with a variety of others. To become a street fighter, you're going to need a base attack bonus of +5, and you're going to need 5 ranks each in Bluff, Intimidate, and Knowledge Local. Unfortunately, that last requirement will prevent a swashbuckler from getting in right after level 5. However, one level of rogue will be able to sort that out for you and get you into it the level after at 6th level. In fact, there really doesn't seem to be any way that's immediately obvious to get into this prestige class right away at level 5 or after level 5. So you'll probably be getting into this after 6th or 7th level. If you're a rogue. However, most likely, as we'll see as we go through this prestige class's abilities, you are going to want to be a fighter when you enter. You're also going to need combat expertise and improved feint, so you're going to need at least an intelligence of 13, which might be a little bit of a strain for the average fighter, but if you just go by the elite array as an example, you can switch your dexterity to 12 and your intelligence to 13 and then have your wisdom at 10. Which is quite dangerous for will saves, but in order to qualify for this prestige class, it might be something you have to do. And of course, there are a variety of different types of fighter that can enter this prestige class and be successful. While it might seem like it's geared more toward a rapier-wielding, weapon finesse-bearing fighter, you could also be using a greatsword or any other type of weapon. Although, again, it tends to be geared toward characters that use weapons that are more accepted to be carried in cities. So, as a street fighter, you're going to get a good fortitude save, which is important for your stand tough class feature. You're going to get a full base attack bonus, which is very important. You're going to get a D8 hit die, which isn't as good as it could be, but for a fighter rogue character, I suppose that is about the average of the two. And you're going to get 4+ intelligence modifier skill points, with your skill list including Bluff, Disable Device, Intimidate, Search, and other important skills. So it will allow you to fill the role of a rogue while still being a decent frontline fighter. At first level, you're going to gain the Always Ready feature. This is going to give you a +1 competence bonus on initiative checks, which will increase to +2 at level 3 and +3 at 5th level. This is a 5-level prestige class, so your class features are going to come on very quickly. A bonus to initiative is very strong, and the fact that you end up with a +3 after only 5 levels is going to help your character out quite a bit. Especially if they are a rogue, going first means that your opponents are going to be flat-footed and you're going to be able to get in a free sneak attack. So that's extremely helpful. Also, just going first in general, at worst you don't want to go first and you can simply delay your turn or ready in action, but there's very few people that would say that they would not want to have the maximum initiative possible in any circumstance. So, Always Ready is going to be a really good feature. Initiative bonuses don't seem like much, but at higher levels they can really determine the tide of a battle. While you're probably not going to be able to get your Dungeon Master to expand this prestige class to 10 levels, if you could, it would become immensely powerful, giving you a huge bonus to your initiative. You also gain the Streetwise feature, which gives you a +2 competence bonus on Gather Information and Knowledge Local checks. This is going to be useful for when you're trying to do any kind of interaction in the city or knowledge about local creatures, which will likely include any humanoids that are around or giants. So this is another useful one to have. That said, this isn't, hugely powerful. This is more of a thematic feature, but even so, the Always Ready feature is a great start to this prestige class. At level 2, Street Fighter can stand tough once per day. Whenever you take damage from a weapon, so not a spell or a special ability, you can use this ability to attempt a fortitude save with the DC equal to the amount of damage dealt, and if it succeeds, you take no lethal damage, and instead you take half the damage dealt as non-lethal damage. And then if the save fails, you take damage normally. And the best part is you don't even need to be aware of the impending attack in order to use this ability. So you could be ambushed, and you could activate this ability to avoid being killed by a sneak attack or some other kind of, surprise attack dealing out a lot of damage to you. It's going to be interesting to decide when to use this. You are going to get to use it twice per day. You're going to get it once per day at 2nd level, twice per day at 4th level. And this can be used to basically be like the defensive role that a high-level rogue gets, except potentially even better, because it can just plain negate a large amount of damage, so you essentially don't have to deal with it at all. Non-lethal damage is going to go away for the most part after a few hours of resting, and that's assuming that you don't get healed, so this is going to really help you out. Having damage is just a great feature in general to be able to react to any kind of attack that's going to potentially kill your character, and just have the damage and turn that 1/2 into non-lethal damage that's going to be easier to deal with. At 3rd level, you're going to gain sneak attack, which is pretty self-explanatory. You're only going to gain 1d6 sneak attack from this class, but it is nice to have a little bit of extra, and it does give you some sort of use for the improved feint feat that you took here. And in fact, it's going to seem like this feature is the only real justification for it being a prerequisite, and not much of one in that case. At level 5, you're going to gain Uncanny Dodge, which works just as the Rogue feature does, and it allows you to act as though you are not flat-footed when you would be, and retain your dexterity bonus to your armor class, among other things. So this prestige class is going to give you 2 very nice features. The Always Ready, giving you competence bonus to initiative, and the Stand Tough once or twice per day, which is going to let you have damage from an incoming attack, even if you're not aware of it, and potentially save your character's life. The 1d6 sneak attack is nice to supplement the sneak attack of a rogue taking this prestige class, and helps tempt them a little bit more by giving them a little bit of what they're giving up in order to take these levels. That said, while it's likely you will be taking at least 1 level of rogue while you're qualifying for this prestige class, your levels in fighter are going to be what's going to be boosting your fortitude save bonus the most to let you make the fullest use of your stand tough ability. It's going to be helpful a pretty good amount of the time if you assume an average roll of 10 and a base fortitude save at the very least when you're entering this prestige class of +6. It's going to be able to prevent 8 extra points of damage at some point or another if you assume 16 damage from an incoming attack, and you can think of it as giving yourself another 8 hit points, which is going to be at least a whole nother hit dice, and that's before any bonuses from Constitution or anything like Great Fortitude is involved. And once you have a second use of this per day, those effective bonus hit points will just flat out double. While the math here is a little bit shaky and vague, it is a good way of looking at Stand Tough and evaluating it, as it is a once per day use ability, and it can be easy to overvalue or undervalue those types of features. Overall, I would give the Streetfighter 4 stars for concept and 3 stars for execution, although I could be convinced to give it a 4. In the right type of campaign where there's not a whole lot of combat going on, your Stand Tough ability is going to be very helpful when you only have maybe 1 encounter per day to spread it across, and even without that, even in a normal dungeon crawling campaign or a city-based dungeon crawling campaign, this type of character will fit in very well. They do have a little bit of social ability to back up their combat prowess, and it certainly is a worthy diversion from fighter or rogue for just 5 levels to get yourself a little bit more initiative. The major issue with this prestige class is that the initiative bonus is going to benefit a rogue character the most, and the Stand Tough ability is going to benefit a fighter character the most. So the prestige class features are a little bit at odds, and the main thing bringing this down to 3 stars is the irrelevancy, relatively speaking, of the prerequisite feats for this prestige class. Combat expertise sort of makes sense as a prelude to Stand Tough, but the description of how these abilities work really doesn't relate to each other at all, and it's really difficult to justify those feats being prerequisites for the prestige class. Great Fortitude and Dodge would have made more sense in a lot of ways. Combat expertise is tolerable, but improved feint at best relates to the 1d6 sneak attack you get, and just doesn't really make any sense. Also, the Uncanny Dodge really isn't much of a capstone ability for this prestige class. And while capstone abilities are not really something that 3.5 prestige classes really take in as a design rule, they are nice to have. It is nice to have something to look forward to at the end. And as is, unless you really want that +3 initiative, it might be tempting to go back to your fighter and rogue levels. I would recommend this prestige class for a fighter rogue or swashbuckler rogue. I would recommend 5 levels of fighter and 1 level of rogue, or 5 levels of swashbuckler and 1 level of rogue. That's more important for the swashbuckler as they get a more significant feature at level 5. You could also have swashbuckler 1, rogue 1, and fighter 4. That would also get you there and give you some more interesting class features. However you choose to do it, I would choose to probably go back to swashbuckler or fighter afterward. Going full rogue in this case really isn't going to do much. You're going to be wasting your uncanny dodge, and while you do usually get improved uncanny dodge, it isn't a feature that comes up that much. If you take uncanny dodge and then gain uncanny dodge from another source, it usually gives you improved uncanny dodge, but again, that really isn't going to be that worth it here. You're going to be better off taking more fighter or swashbuckler levels in most cases. That said, you are going to have 2d6 sneak attack to work with, so flanking is going to be incentivized for you. Your combat expertise and your improved feint probably aren't going to see a whole lot of use. If you go into this prestige class as a rogue, then you're going to probably want to do some type of feint build. Unfortunately, this prestige class doesn't give you very much to work with there. That's going to be, again, the biggest thing holding it back are those feat prerequisites and the rather lackluster 5th level that it provides you. So, that's going to be about it for this D&D 3.5 Prestige Class review. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and so on. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time here on 3.5 Archive.